Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 166, Learning XPages Part 7, Using a Controller. The Eagles did win this game. Down with the Giants. Okay, just a couple quick comments before we get into the demo. This show is really about starting to use a controller, and the controller came from Jesse Gallagher, who kind of came up with this code. And there is more effort involved with this, and it doesn't quite make as much sense for a very simple page, but the more complex a page, the more this absolutely pays off. I do all my stuff today in the day job with a controller. And what it really allows you to do is allows you to get rid of server-side JavaScript. Not for the sake of getting rid of server-side JavaScript, but for the sake of getting a cleaner X page, so you don't have to have all that code strewn about, kind of spaghetti-ish, on your X page itself. It goes into one Java class, and there's a lot of power in just having neat code in there, let alone the additional capabilities that you're going to get with the better editor, the better capabilities inside Java itself. It's just, to me, it's a much nicer way to do things than having server-side JavaScript behind this button in this event here and there. So with all that being said, let's go to the demo. Okay, so we just created our company object, and I want to get it on this page and link it there, but we're not really ready to do that yet. I mean, we could. Traditionally in XPages with the Java programming, you can go into the faces config in here, and you can create a managed bean, and then you can, and I could call it company, and then I could come in here and I could say, I could come in here and say something like, oops, I don't want to do that. I could replace this with just company.unique, and that would work right. That would work well if you declare it as a managed bean and stuff like that. But I don't want to do that here. I want to use the controller classes that Jesse Gallagher did, and there's some good advantage to do that. It's a little more work up front, but again, in the long run, it's worth it. So if you remember back several episodes ago, we went into source tree. And we pulled down this controller project, but we didn't do anything with it. It's just sitting on disk. Okay, well now we're going to do something with it. So if you haven't done that, go back to that episode. So we're going to go to Package Explorer. We only have one project in here. We're going to add a new one. We're going to right click, and we're going to say New Other, and we're going to say, wait, that's not it. I'm sorry. We're going to... This is a little different than my normal working thing. We're going to say import, and we're going to say general, existing project into workspace. We're going to import that controller package into here, and we're going to browse. We're going to find it on our disk that we already downloaded, and I put that in my little, my documents source control world, and that was under HG controller, and we're going to actually take this guy right here. We're not going to do it from here. We're going to take this the actual on disk project. This is the repository. This is the on disk project. So when we do this, when we create and when we load, we want to deal with one on disk project at a time. But by doing the source control this way, we can have multiple NSFs or multiple on disk projects inside a single repository. Okay, this is very important. We do not want this HG to ever get inside here. It will ruin your day. Okay, so we have it right here. We don't want to copy that into workspace. We want to leave it where it is, and we're going to say finish. And now we have the project imported. But that did not give us a new database yet. And what I'm doing here works with any source control project you see on there. Oh, look, the Eagles scored again. It's 20-0. How glorious. Way to go, Mitch's team. Okay, anyway, so we're going to come in here and we're going to right click on this and say Team Development, Associate with New NSF. You can do an existing one, but if you actually pick an existing one that has data in it, you're going to overwrite it. It's like the Genesis experiment in Star Trek 2. So it will destroy whatever it is, whatever is already there. Okay, so we're going to make this temp controller.ntf, and all we're going to do with this is copy some stuff out of it, quite honestly. So now that controller is there, and we're soon going to put this under source control itself. We haven't done that yet, but we will soon. So we controller, and inside here are some Java classes, and I want these. And we're just going to simply copy and paste. We don't really care what's inside there because a smarter mind than mine has written those. But it's good stuff. Trust me on that. Okay. Now, we do have to, and we're going to close that, we do have to turn something on so the database knows that we're going to do this. So we're going to go into the faces config, and we're in a kind of, I guess what I'd say, a normal XPages application that uses Java and managed beans. We would add a managed bean here. In this case, we're going to add something called a view handler. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it does. I just know it allows me to work a better way, and I'll be showing you that as well too. So that's it. So we're good. Okay. Now, the way the controller works is if we go into this X page, right? We're going to have, eventually we're going to have validation in here. We're going to have buttons. We're going to have all sorts of logic. And that logic, if we're not careful, not that there's anything wrong with it, but oops, let's come here, like before page load, that logic will take the form of server-side JavaScript. And we can type in lines and lines here. And if we look at the markup in here, let's do this. Var doc notes document equals null. Database. And again, I'm just typing. Create document. Oops. Well, let's do this. That'd probably make more sense. Equals database dot create document, etc. So, oops. That's one equal there. Okay, so now if we look at this in source, okay, so we've got this before page load, and we got this, yellow color-coded server-side JavaScript. And quite honestly, if we start getting into multiple lines and stuff like that, it's going to get old real quick. Our XML that represents our page is going to get rather messy. So the controller allows us to take this server-side JavaScript and offload it into Java itself. So we have a bit of a better editor, the less markup on our X page, and quite honestly, it's just a better way to do things. I'm not saying you can't write an application without server-side JavaScript, and we are going to use some server-side JavaScript itself, but multiple lines and big functions or so, I'd rather have that in Java. That just makes the most sense to me. And it's cleaner and easier to support. Okay, so we're going to get out of here. So we want to make a controller. Now the way the controllers work is we're going to make a new Java class, and we're going to just call this controller, and this has to be this way. And the name of it has to be the name of your X page, the exact same thing. So I'm going to call this company, because that's the name of the X page. It's got to be, and it's case sensitive. Wow, this is a good game. Holy cow. All right, first down. Okay, so I'm just looking at something behind the scenes here. So now the other thing that you just have to know to do, that's why I'm telling you, is how we implemented serializable in our object class, our company object class, is we're going to extend his Jesse's basic X page controller thing, and that's really it. Then we're kind of ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make an instance variable, private company. We'll call it company. And I will tell you right now, I am risking a lot of confusion, because here's a company, everyone's a company, EIO. But I haven't quite figured out a good way to handle all this yet. So I capitalize my actual objects. I don't capitalize my controllers' page names, because I don't want because I want the actual X page to be company.xsp, because that just makes sense. But the controller being, or the object being company, oh, that makes sense to me too. But it kind of can get a little confusing. Certainly, I could probably change the instance variable in here. So I haven't quite worked all that out. Anyway, we'll get this to work. So private company is going to be a new company object, right? One of these. So we're going to see if we can import company right here from NotesIn9 network. Okay, and we're going to do a public constructor with an argumentless constructor. And again, that just has to be the name of the class. Yes, I know it's you guys can make fun of me. I made a class once in the day job called item, and it's not a notes item. It's a like a crate or a shipping item, like a physical item. That made perfect sense to me until I really got deep into it. And now everyone confuses with a notes item, or it just isn't clear enough, and people make fun of me now when they present. Like Jesse did at MWlog. So I do regret that, and I'm sure I'm going to regret all this, but I haven't come up with a better way, and maybe someone will post something in the comments. Okay, so what we can do here with our controller is rather than putting in the code into the X page, we can kind of put it right inside our controller and then bind to it. So the X page has this great event before page load, and you can use that for a lot of things before the page loads. Well, I want to use that event, but I want to use it in the controller itself. Okay, so I'm going to paste some code in here. We're going to go through it. But first, now let's just pretend this is server-side JavaScript. It's not, but let's pretend it is. And again, we look at the source. So now, you can kind of see our source starting to get bigger and more bloated. And again, this wasn't even the whole method. This was just a little bit. So if you imagine having this amount of code in maybe 4 different buttons and different events or so, your XML page is just gonna be a kind of unwieldy. So that is one of the main reasons of the controller. The other is just to get into Java too, quite honestly. Okay, so I made a method called before page load, and it's overriding something he's got in here, and we don't really need to worry about it. We just have to know it's called before page load. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a map of parameters, and I'm going to use what's called a variable resolver to get the parameters. So if we come back out here again to this before page load event, and if we go at our editor, you may notice that there's global object. There's all sorts of these global objects, and one of them is called param. So if we click here, there's a a get somewhere. There's a get and contains and stuff like that, and all it is a hash map. And what the parameter is anything that comes after your URL. So the question mark, company equals some kind of key. So I'm going after this part here. I want to know what this key is. Okay, and I want to read that into my code. Now, yes, I can do that in server-side JavaScript, but we're here to do some Java. So this is just a utility that comes with the extension library, which is why we added that in. And it's basically can get any variable in memory that has this name. That's really kind of cool. Now, in Java, there's this thing called a map. What's a map? A scoped, the scope is a map. So session scope is a map. It's like a hash map, application scope, request scope, view scope. It's the same thing. So I'm calling this, I'm going to create, or I'm saying that this variable, this is called casting. I'm saying is I want to get this variable, parameter, or param, and I'm telling Java that this is going to be a map of string for the keys and string as the values. And I think that's accurate. Possibly it's not, but it's working so far. And I'm going to assign it to a new map called param that I've built in my object of string for the key and string for the value. So these things match. So again, all we're doing is we're doing what's called a variable resolver, which basically says XPages give me the object in memory called param. This is what it is, and this is where I'm putting it. Okay, now I'm getting this error because I don't have map imported yet. So we're going to actually import map from, and here's a good example of why you don't want to use those stars. We want this Java util one. We don't want this. We don't know what that is. So we want that map. We also need to import the XSP util. We want to import and it can't find it because it sucks. So I'm going to come over here and find it. Oh, I thought this came from the extension library, but I guess this is the OpenNTF API as well. Oops. Let's clean that up. Okay, so far so good. So now we have a way to get to any parameter in our URL inside Java. Now some little if-then statement that probably anybody can read is if company is in the parameter list, then I'm going to get that value and I'm going to put it in this variable called key that I made. String key equals parameter get company. And then I'm going to say this dot company, okay, and this is this little instance member here, which is nothing. There's no, I have to instantiate it. I'm going to say let's create a new object, a new company object, okay, and then I'm going to inspect that variable, and if I actually pass in the word new, in this case, I haven't quite figured out a better way to do this. So right now, I'm passing the word new. Then I'm going to create it. And if it's not new, then I'm going to assume it's a key, and I'm going to load it with parameters. That's where I'm calling that company load, and I'm passing in a string of the key. And actually, I can see this. This could easily just be key. At this stage, I didn't need to re-go to that object again. Okay, and this I just left in here because it worked, and I like to leave notes behind, kind of like breadcrumbs. Okay, so now I've got a before page load event. Okay, but I have to link, and I'm going to save this, I have to link this before page load event to the actual X page. And the way you're going to do that, and I'm going to go behind the scenes again for a second, is I'm going to go to my X page, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use EL, expression language binding. And this basically before page load. I'm going to say controller before page load. I'm actually going to bind to the after page load, though I'm not actually going to use that. So now instead of having all those lines of code inside this X page, this is all I need. It will call that. Now, you don't want to double up. You don't want to have this and then go into before page load and add other things there. So we're committing to using the controller in Java for that at this stage of the game. Okay, so I've created this company and object. I'm loading it, or I'm creating a new one. So I want to have a way to get that back. And that is going to be a very simple getter. Public, it's going to return a company object, get company. I'm going to return company. So I'm holding on to this company object. I'm either going to create a new one or load an existing one from disk, and I'm going to be able to get it at any point from this controller by calling get company. Okay? So now at this stage of the game, I can come back into the X page here. And one of the nice things about this controller class is you can reference it on any page by using the word controller. So you don't have to like change the names or anything like that as you go to different pages. This controller is unique to this page, but any controller we'll make, we can reference on any page by the single name controller. Oh, look, the Giants are punting again. Wow, with 58 seconds left in the second half, 4th and 14. God, they suck. Okay, so we're going to say to get a value, controller dot company dot unique. So this is basically saying controller get company get unique. In EL, you don't need the gets and you don't need the parentheses. Okay, so we're going to copy this and we're going to just replace all these document ones. Actually, we'll go fancy. We'll do this document one. We're going to replace it with this. Find replace and find the next one, and we'll just do replace all. What the heck? We're going to live dangerously. Okay, so now this page is in better shape. And actually, let's come back and let's see what happens here. So if we come back to our home page and we say new company, we've already set this link to open the company page. But we need to now say company equals new. We're going to go to all properties, and there's parameters in here, and we're going to say, make a parameter and say company new. Okay, let's just see what happens. I'm going to move that over here. See what happens. Oops, go to network, and if all goes well, we should get a unique key. It might crash. I don't know. If I forgot anything, we're going to do new. Look at that. Company new got passed in. We've got our unique key, and now we can start adding values. Of course, we have no way to save it yet, but that will come later. And that's the demo. I hope you liked the show. If you have any questions for me, here's my information, and I thank you for your time.